So the upcoming round in rugby league is multicultural round, and honestly, I absolutely love the idea of it, especially because the league is so diversified these days. There's players that come pretty much from across the world. So what we're going to do today is go over and have a look at players that you know that can play for small and obscure nations. But before we get into it, make sure if you enjoy these videos and that sort of thing, you like the video, leave a comment about some other players because I'm not going to talk about all the players, and it's a good educational thing. So drop some players below that can play for some small nations, and also don't forget to subscribe for more footy content. Now, one more thing before we get into the video, huge shout out to Blake Darlow, because I got a lot of these players from his TikTok series that he had, so make sure you go check out his stuff. He's got a YouTube channel, like Instagram, that sort of thing. TikTok's his main one, so go over and chuck him a follow. The first player that I want to talk about who can play for some small and obscure nations is actually a couple, Nathan Cleary. Now, he can play for Croatia due to his mother, I believe, but recently as well at service, he can also play for Ukraine, and I think that's due to his grandmother on his mother's side as well. I think it was really cool. We were saying the other day that if he's not picked for Australia, he'd love to play for Ukraine, especially given the war efforts and that sort of thing going on. I think how cool that would be for Nathan Cleary to represent his grandmother's nation, but also for those players there from Ukraine to go out and take the field with one of the best players in his generation. It'd be really, really cool. Maybe we'll get to see it happen later in his career when he's a bit older, but I think for now, he's probably going to make that Aussie side for a little while, so they're going to be quite patient with that one. Now, over to Nathan Cleary's Panthers teammate, Stephen Crichton. Now, obviously this nation's it's a bit more known as a rugby league nation, but he can play for Scotland, which I think is crazy because he's Samoan, obviously, and Australian as well, play for the Blues, but it's a strange mix to me, being able to play for both Samoa and Scotland. It's pretty cool. I'd love to go see him play for Scotland in a World Cup. It would bring so many eyes to that, and actually boost the game. It's sort of the same thing that basically what he did for Samoa in last year's World Cup. Now, another guy that can play for a European nation. I think this one's actually quite known, but he'd probably down the pecking order a fair bit for the Australian squad. So that's Scott Drinkwater, and he can play for Germany, him and his brother Josh. And I think they've both declared they want to play for Germany. I believe as well, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but Ruben Cotter might be able to play for Germany as well. I think that'd be pretty cool. Get some Cowboys blokes, bit of continuity in that team, and go over and play in some European qualifiers for the World Cup. I reckon they'd go pretty well. So we'll move over to, we'll go back over to the Penrith players now. This is a guy this is a pretty cool bit of heritage. Brian To'o can play for China. That's pretty sick. There's only a couple of players I know in rugby league that have ever even been able to play for China. I think Michael Cheekham might be one. The other one is Denon Kemp, believe it or not. So I think Brian To'o over for China would be pretty cool. Now this one's pretty well known, but obviously it's not a big rugby league nation at all. The Trbojevic brothers can all play for Serbia. Obviously, Tom and Jacob played for Australia, and I think they probably will do for a little while as well. So Serbia, them representing Serbia is probably not too likely in the very recent future, but Ben Trbojevic, there's no reason why he couldn't go out there and play for them. I think it'd be pretty cool to see one of the Turbo brothers go out there and represent their fathers, I believe, nation. Now, Payne Haas, he's got a couple of nations that he can represent that are quite small. Obviously, the Philippines, through, I believe, his mother's heritage and that sort of thing. But he can also represent Switzerland, which I think is really cool. Really small nation. I think, obviously, rugby league wouldn't be massive over there. They're quite, a lot of these European countries, soccer's obviously, or football, is their number one sport. But look, if we can get these kind of guys going over there and playing some rugby league, and because they're so good, getting those people excited and involved in rugby league would be great for the game. So one day, hopefully, Payne Haas can play for Switzerland. And another guy that I actually don't know if this nation's ever played a rugby league game or if they even have a team, but Ryan Pappenhausen can play for the Netherlands, which I think is really cool. Go see him playing the old Flying Dutchman. That'd be pretty cool. Watch Pappy go over there, and for this same thing as Haas. Imagine these really gun players going over to Europe and strutting their stuff, getting people excited about rugby league in nations that don't really have it. That'd be pretty cool. Now, this guy, Marcelo Montoya, might potentially be the only player in the NRL that has, actually, no, that's a lie. I was going to say has South American heritage, but there's a couple of other blokes that have heritage of the same country. So Montoya is eligible for Chile. So is Matt Croker. It's just come to me right now. Him and his younger brother, I believe he's in the night system as well. They're all Chilean, which is really, really cool. Imagine you get a fair decent side from Chile, getting out and around, spreading rugby league through South America. It'd be awesome. And this couple of players have a bit of African heritage, actually. So Seb Chris can represent South Africa, which I like. I think I've said it about 3,000 times already this video. It's pretty cool. Seb Chris, he's made the transition to fullback this season. Probably not going as well as they'd hoped, but really, really talented player. It would be awesome to see him go back and represent South Africa in some capacity. And then the other African player that I've got here is Jayden Okunbor. He can play for both Zimbabwe and Nigeria. I believe Jason Saab can also play for Nigeria. And I don't know whether it's Nigeria or maybe Cameroon, I think might be the country. They've got their own national rugby league competition. So these boys getting back over and representing these nations would be really, really cool for the African game. And then we've got, this one might actually be up there with the, not strangest, but most interesting ones. Alex Seyfarth can represent Sri Lanka. Now that's hectic. It's a very, very small, obscure nation that I didn't even know had any relations to rugby league at all. So Alex Seyfarth being Sri Lankan, honestly, I think is really, really interesting and quite cool. Another Penrith player, they might have the most diversified team in the comp. Jermaine Salmon can play for Canada. I believe, I can't remember who it is. I'm pretty sure there's another player in the NRL, at least in a squad, that can play for Canada. So Jermaine Salmon getting over playing for them. Maybe Jermaine Salmon's dad is Canadian. I'm not too sure. You'd have to let me know in the comments. But that'd be pretty interesting to see Jermaine Salmon go back over and play for Canada. Now, we've got a couple Scandinavians to finish off the video. We've got Brandon Smith is Norwegian. I believe there's actually a fair few Norwegian, Māori people, because obviously to do with the Vikings and that sort of thing. And so yeah, I know Brandon Smith, and I think he said that Corey Harawira-Naera and Chancellor Klukstad are have Norwegian descent as well. I don't know whether it's as recent and as close as Brandon Smith, which is why he can play for Norway, and I don't know whether they can or not. But yeah, I think that's really, really interesting, the fact that you just have a look at the way history can affect these guys' bloodlines and where they can and can't play rugby league for. And then the other one, which I think is probably there's one of the more interesting ones as well, is Jaden Campbell. He can play for Denmark. I don't know how many Indigenous players or Indigenous people there has been that have Danish heritage as well, so I think that's pretty cool. So there's just some players that can play for other small and obscure nations. Let me know ones that you know about that I haven't spoken about in the comments. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, and yeah, spread the love. Thanks for watching, guys.